Hello guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of Skills and Abilities. Today we're going to be going over a skill in this particular game, the Moonbeast game, which does not have a name yet. Not officially anyway. And, you know, it is a interesting ability. It's called Bloodlash. And Bloodlash has quite a few different ways that it can potentially be set up. And we're going to be talking about some of those ways today. Now, first off, when you use Bloodlash, it's a very simple ability. It sucks a monster in. And if it has enough damage, it'll just kill them outright, which is pretty darn powerful. But if it doesn't kill them outright, it usually sucks them in. Now, I do actually have a rune here. We need to take this off so we actually get the nice pull-in effect. And as you can see, it tends to suck the monster in. It's also technically a weapon skill, so this is also very important. Because it is a weapon skill, it also gets essentially any of the benefits that you have from your specific skills in the game. And we're going to go ahead and turn off the AI for the monsters for a second so that we can play around with this. So how it works is whatever weapon you have on is transferred to it, and this is because it is a basic attack melee weapon damage skill, and so it actually does use the damage of your weapon. On top of this, it also inherits the elemental effect of the weapon as well. So if you use Bloodlash on a target, you will notice that the target can become chilled, for instance, if you were using a cold weapon, because you get that nice cold effect. Now, Bloodlash has a numerous number of ways that it can potentially be set up. First off is Vitae. Vitae allows you to basically get a really nice amount of life leech. For the first point, you get 1% per hit. For the second point, you get 2% per hit. And for the third point, you get 3% per hit. Which is actually pretty good, especially considering you have access to other options as well, which are also really nice. And of course, this is just life leech, but life leech per hit is going to be extremely effective for helping to keep you alive in those difficult situations. So at the very least, you might want to consider putting at least like 1 point into Vitae. On top of this, we also have access to Blood Rage. Blood Rage is an attack speed bonus, and as far as I'm aware, you don't necessarily need to put more than 1 point into this, but you can if you want to. It is an attack speed bonus that, when used, will give you an attack speed increase, depending on your current speed, of course, and what weapon you're using, and it lasts for the rated duration. Essentially giving you some really fast attack speed. I do actually have a full attack speed build. I did it on day 2 of my live stream for this particular game, and if you want to check that out, it was actually really fast, and I was super excited about it. And we did, of course, use Bloodlash for that to make the speed of the attack as fast as we possibly could. Now, another way that you could potentially go is to go with the increased number of tethers. Now, this one was actually really neat when I played around with it. By default, you only really get 1 tether, and if you put 1 point into it, you get 2. You put another point into it, you get 3, and then finally you get 5 tethers for maxing it out, which is really quite effective. In fact, when you go into a pack of monsters that has a relatively large number, and you utilize your tethers, you can see that you will get multiple tethers, right, per cast, as opposed to the normal amount. And it actually is very effective, especially for pulling in large groups at the same time and dishing out massive amounts of damage. Also, if you happen to have monsters that are weak enough, it can become a very effective AoE skill to do a massive amounts of damage to large groups of monsters, because of course you're going to hit 5 monsters at the same time with a single cast, which is pretty good. On top of this, there is also another way that you can potentially build this, and this is through the Glyph tree. Now, the glyphs don't actually affect Bloodlash. They actually affect evocation skills. So when you hold your mouse over a specific tree or a skill and you look at it like Spinebreaker, you'll see that Spinebreaker says that it's evocation, or Glyph Lunge says that it's evocation. Now, I'll dive completely into this at some point when I do the Glyph Lunge video, but as for right now, just know that when you build a glyph with Glyph Lunge, what you're doing is you're essentially making, and you can see it's lit up now, you are essentially making this very interesting combination of effects. So I'm going to go ahead and just grab a bunch of glyphs. Let's just go ahead and get at least some glyphs added to our total. Sometimes it takes a little bit to get the glyphs. I didn't put full points into it, but it should still work. Not a single glyph so far. Come on, baby. Come on, baby. Give me the glyphs now. There we go. We've got one blood glyph. And what we want to do is we actually want to get 3 of them, which may take us a little bit of time. The blood glyphs appear down here at the bottom, so we're just going to keep building them as we go along. Now, evocation skills spend glyphs. That's basically how they work. So every single time you have a set of glyphs, and now we have 2, and eventually we'll get our 3rd glyph here. Now, the interesting thing here is that you do also have the ability to build glyphs in other ways as well. So the actual glyph lunge ability can also build random glyphs. So if we use a glyph lunge on the target, which it is not allowing me to do. There we go. See, we've obtained a random 3rd glyph. Now we have Bleed, Bleed, Stun, which when we use our evocation skill the last time, will cause an explosion with all of those glyphs. Now, specifically with Glyph Lunge, there's a lot of different ways you can potentially do this. But when it comes to at least the way that Bloodlash functions by giving you access to a blood glyph, which is one particular way that you can do it. As you can clearly see, it said that the blood glyphs were bleeding effects, which is, yeah, that's essentially how that works. So we have, go ahead and see if we can get one more glyph real quick. Of course, you want to be a pain in the butt. There we go. I would advise, it seems like to me, that the glyphs are much easier to build when you have a higher percentage. And mine is currently not maxed out. But as you can see here, we've got our blood glyph again, and that allows us to get one access to, well, a bleed. We can try and get more. Let's see if we can get more. Depending on what combination you build, it also comes up with various other effects, which is kind of neat. It'll kind of tell you what it is that you built when you build it. So once you have all your glyphs in place, like for instance, this one is a shadow glyph, and then we can also get access to some of the other glyphs. Once we have access to all of the glyphs, it gives us a nice little combination there, so we have an understanding of like what it is that we're going to be dishing out. Now, in this particular case, we seem to be having trouble building them, but there we go. Now we have Bleed, Mana, and Stun. So we have a Mana Steal, a Stun that's going to happen, and then we also have our Bleed. So when we hit the target, nice explosion. On top of all of this, Bloodlash does function as a melee attack as well, so if you want to use it as a melee attack, obviously you just need to be within melee range, which happens pretty much immediately when you pull in a target. So once you pull in the target, you are then essentially going to be meleeing them to death at that point. But we're not done. There's also one additional effect. So in the tattoos section, if you have access to a bat rune, and you equip a bat rune on your character, you can get access to Red Embrace, which is your Bloodlash entangles enemies instead of pulling them in, which is really freaking cool. So instead of pulling them towards you, it will actually bind them in place. If we can actually do this without killing them, let's take off my ridiculous Spired Staff, and let's put on. I don't know. Do I have some like regular crappy weapon? I guess we can just use the dagger for right now. Just something that hopefully won't kill them outright. And of course it kills them outright. Let's find a tougher monster. And as you can see, he has like these things growing around him, these coiling, right? So he's actually being bound in place by the coils essentially turning the pull-in into a bind instead, shifting it to a different mechanic. In fact, this particular character I had actually kind of designed around that. I was like, okay, let me get as many points into the, like the tethers as I could, and I built into essentially hitting multiple targets at the same time. So I would just bind them, and you could essentially just sit back and use it as kind of an AoE skill. Now, I did notice that some monsters seem to be immune to the tether, like for instance, Big Boy right here is definitely immune to the tether. And we'll have to see what's going on with that. But if the monster is immune to the tether, well, then they get pulled in instead. Overall, Bloodlash is a really fun ability. It's a pull-in. It helps you build bleed glyphs for your evocation skills. It can hit one target or up to 5 targets at the same time. It also has a life leech and an attack speed bonus. It can be either a pull-in or a bind, and honestly, just really fun to play around with. Oh, and I forgot one more thing. It lash at a distant target, reel it in, consecutive swings, boost attack speed, and gain 4.6 mana on hit. So not only do you gain access to all of the things that I said above, but it also acts as a mana leech ability, so that when you're attacking the target, you'll actually will kind of like get some of your mana back. In fact, let me just kind of show you this real quick. So we're just going to burn all of our mana real quick. And you can clearly see that when I attack targets, my mana is coming back. So it works as a mana leech ability. It works as a pull-in. It works as a life leech ability. It works as an attack speed bonus. It can be a pull-in or a bind, and it also builds evocation glyphs. It's absolutely amazing. There's a lot of various things that you can do with Bloodlash, and it is limited, of course, by what points you put into it. Obviously, to hit 5 targets, you have to spend 3 option points into Ichor. To hit the Life Leech, you got to put points into Vitae. To get the attack speed bonus, you have to put points into Blood Rage, and so forth and so on. So it's not like it does all these things by default, but it does enough of them when set up properly that it can be an extremely effective part of your build. As always, I do appreciate you guys and gals joining me. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe button if you enjoy the content. And as always, keep watching.